Hey guys, in today's video we are talking about the Polestar 2. Now this is a EV and it's a liftback shape. Now this model here comes in three versions. There is the standard range single motor, the long range single motor, and then the long range dual motor. This model here is the short range single motor, which is the lower spec model. But we're going to see today if this lower spec model still gives you a lot of stuff. I do think that the Polestar 2 has quite a nice design that stands out amongst a lot of the more generic looking EV SUVs that are out there. I think the front looks great, the details, the accents. I do like this headlight design here, which looks very good, particularly for a lower trim model. Sometimes you get really ugly headlights, but these ones look really nice. As we come towards the side though, and we look at the side profile, remember this shape is called a liftback shape. Now most liftback designs, like the Audi A5, the Audi A7, the Porsche Panamera, the Mercedes-AMG GT 4-door, all those cars have a very nice soft, flowing and sloping roofline. And they also are quite sporty low cars. This car is a bit funny because you can see it's actually quite high off the ground. The clearance is quite high. And the sloping roofline isn't as slopey, it isn't as smooth. And I really like the other designs of the other liftback cars out there. However, this is a bit more practical. This one you do get a bit more headroom in the back, and you do obviously get more ground clearance, and it means getting in and out of the car is a bit easier too, being a bit higher off the ground. And this sort of black plastic cladding, unpainted, along the car also gives it more of a utilitarian look rather than a more sporty look. I really love these side mirror designs. They're a very gorgeous shape, and also you can see that the mirror here is a frameless design as well. The tail lights also look quite cool in this car, and you do have a really nice unlocking light animation that comes in as well. It might be flickering on the screen there, but here is it flickering on the screen there? Yeah. It is? Okay, anyway, it's not flickering in real life, but trust me, it looks really nice. Now, even though this may be a lower spec model, you'll be pleased to know that all models come standard with a powered liftgate, and all of them also come with a kick sensor. And it's actually worked every single time that I have had this car over the past few days, which is great. But you'll see here again, being a liftgate, there's a lot more room, and it's easy to put larger, bulkier items in, especially if you lower the rear seats. You do have some underfloor storage as well, and you've got a little prop here, so you can prop this thing up as well, which is quite nice. Now this car does have a frunk, but it is quite small because it is based on a combustion engine platform. But there is a bit of storage there. The annoying thing is that it's not opened like most frunks. You have to actually use the latch lever near the driver's door, and then you've got to unlatch this lever here as well. So it's not really designed to be a proper frunk. Now this car comes with your standard key fob, but it also comes with this thing called an action key, which is a dustproof, waterproof and lightweight compact key. So it's great for using in the outdoors. As with most premium cars, this car has keyless entry on all four doors. Now, being a compact size sedan, it does mean it's a little bit cramped here in the back, but it's not too bad. I've got decent headroom, although I am on the shorter side of things. Now, the seat backs, the headrests are very far forward, so you'll see, like, if I'm going to go on a long road trip, it's pretty hard for me to try and rest. So that's not the greatest. Now, you do have some lovely air vents here with these very nice knurling on these knobs here. You do have two USB-C ports down the bottom there. And surprisingly, storage and practicality wise, it's not the greatest. You'll see here there is no seat back pockets at all. Very weird for a premium car. Now the center armrest does fold down. You do have 2.5 cup holders here. They're okay. Now if you look in the door panel, you'll see there is some room there, but it's fairly narrow. So maybe a small bottle of V maybe will fit there, but not much more than that. Unfortunately, the rear windows do not go very far down at all. This is their lowest setting. The ISOFIX points are very easy to access, and surprisingly, you can fit a rear-facing car seat with still a decent amount of legroom for the front passenger. Now the front seats have one of the weirdest things I've ever seen before in a car. It has got semi-electric seats. So you can see here, it's got the seat base controls, but not the seat back controls. So you can do your forward and back, you can do your tilt and raise and lower, and this is what you use to change the recline angle. What I don't get is why would you not just have a normal lever? Because this thing is an absolute pain in the ass to move. And if you can see how slowly, I've got to do so many rotations just to move this thing forwards and backwards. And yet even an old school manual lever would have been so much easier. But even despite that, it really should be all electric in a car like this in 2022. Even funnily enough, you've got memory seats, and the memory seats are going to remember your sitting position and your side view mirrors, but it's not going to remember your seat back position because it's manual. Now the higher trims of course do give you fully electric front seats. Now once you are in the front seats and you have got your backrest configured to the right angle, the seats are actually quite comfortable. The seating position is great. I've got very good upper back and headrest support as well, which is great for driving. However, it's quite forward. It's quite far forward, this headrest, and if you are in the passenger seat and you're going for a long road trip, it might get a bit sore on your back, being quite, forward with your neck. But one thing that surprised me about this car is that the lumbar support is one of the best I've ever had. It's got four-way lumbar support, and I can get it really far in there and really low, and for my lower back, which isn't the greatest, it is very, very relieving. The overall interior design of this car is more upmarket feeling than your average EV. I really like a lot of the shapes, the geometry in here, the different patterns and textures that you've got. Now bear in mind this is still the lower spec model, so it has cloth instead of leather in here. But just all of these shapes, these lines, these angles, the switch gear, even the door card is quite nice. This is a speaker hidden behind this pattern here, and even this grip, just holding this grip here and pulling it closed just feels really nice in this car. Now there's not a lot of switchgear in here, but of the switchgear that is in here, it is very nice. Like look at this volume knob here. Look at the sort of knurling design, the sort of crystally cut design there. Feels very, very nice to the touch. Even the shift lever in here feels very nice. This leather wrapped top part, the little Polestar logo light down there. The indicator stalks and the light stalks, wiper stalks, they have a really nice feel to them. They're very solid and doesn't feel very cheap. So the build quality in here is quite nice. Even just sitting down in here like this when I'm driving along, I find I naturally rest my arm kind of over here, and I kind of end up, sorry, I turn the wipers on. Yep. Just resting my hand here, resting my palm on this here, changing the volume, feels really nice. And I think it's a little bit sad that there aren't more buttons in here, because a lot of them, of course, a lot of controls are all in the infotainment. And if I could interact with more controls here, maybe the HVAC controls over here, it would just feel a lot nicer. Storage and practicality in the front is okay. First of all, you've got one cup holder over here, and it kind of blocks your arm. So don't plan on drinking drinks and resting your arm at the same time. Now, if you want two cup holders, guess what? There's one under here in the center console area. But that means if you've got a cup in here, that takes up all of your center console space. And it means if you have a cup here, this is going to be left open. So that's a bit of a weird design there. This looks very nice, but they've just kind of forgotten about the cup holders. Now, you do have a decent sized glove box at least. And there is some storage spaces here on both sides. And there is the door bins, of course, as well. They're okay. They're not super deep and not super wide, but at least they'll fit a few more things in there. You do have a little bit of storage here for your phones. Now, this can be a wireless phone charger if you get the higher trim models. And you do have two USB-C ports over here as well. Now, this car has the standard sound system, which comes with 8 speakers. And I've actually been very impressed for a bass sound system, how good this sounds. Now, you can upgrade to the Harman Kardon or the Bowers & Wilkins systems in the later models if you want a better audio experience. Now the infotainment screen here is a really good size and it works very well in the portrait orientation. It's very responsive, it's very clear, and this is actually one of the first cars to have an Android system running the whole infotainment system. So you can see here, I've got the Google Play Store and I've got a bunch of apps. Now that's cool, and it comes with Google Maps as well and built into the software. But one of the cons is that if you look at the screen here, this kind of looks like your mate's Android tablet. Yeah, it doesn't look very fancy or nice. It just looks very, kind of cheap. So that's one of the cons. But we'll get back to that shortly. There's some pros about it. Now, you've got a home screen, but it's not very useful. If you're following your directions, you don't see any directions here. You've got to go into the Maps app to see your directions. So it's a pretty average home screen. Now, again, I just wish the HVAC controls were all physical. You don't gain anything by having it all on the screen here. Now, at least these ones always stay down the bottom here, your temperature, your heated seats. But to change your fan speed, you've got to tap on here and then adjust your fan speed from here. Now, there are two physical buttons down here. You've got your rear and front demisting functions, but everything else, the air distribution is all controlled from the touchscreen. So, yeah, missed opportunity. If this whole section was just physical HVAC controls, much, much better. Now, the instrument cluster, really, really interesting. I've got very mixed opinions, but it might surprise you. So, firstly, if we have a look at this cluster here, it is fully digital. Yay! But look how it's really basic. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want a lot of distractions. But normally the point of a digital cluster is to give you a lot of configurability. But look, you can't actually change much on the screen. The charge power meter is pretty, bland. You think you'd make it look kind of more sporty or whatever. The speedometer, again, the offset to the left a little bit. It just kind of looks, weird. I think you do get navigation instructions in the middle of the screen. That's why there's a blank area there in the middle. But again, you can't do things like view music. You can't view a whole lot of other settings on here. You can't change many things. All you can do is pull up the trip meter. So from that perspective, it's quite disappointing. However, if you press this button over here, you now get a full screen map. Now, many cars can pull up a full screen map on the instrument cluster. That's not anything special, but this one can do so much more than that in terms of the maps. The first good thing about it is that it's Google Maps, right? Because it's based on the Android infotainment system, and that means it's got all of your traffic data as well. Now I have got my Apple CarPlay set up, and unfortunately it's wired on this model, but you can see here I've got my normal Apple CarPlay screen. But watch this. As soon as I go here and hit go, now look at the instrument cluster. It now has not just the Google Maps map, but it has the same Apple Maps map from Apple CarPlay on here with all the graphics. Now, many cars, when you have this sort of system and you use Apple CarPlay, it will not show you a map. It will get rid of the map, or it will just show you your instructions. But this one actually imports all the graphics and lane guidance information and puts it into here. And what I love about this is that if you use Apple Maps, see how on the main infotainment screen, it actually shows my entire route, not just the same thing that's on this screen. So while I'm looking at the more immediate stuff on this screen and the lane guidance on this screen here, I can see the bigger picture. I can see the traffic. I can see the alternate routes, which I can change. And it just works so well. And being Apple CarPlay, I can press this button, and now I've got my music here, I've got my bigger picture here of navigation, and my more immediate navigation here, and this is the perfect setup. You don't need anything more than this. Like, once I've got this set up, I'm happy. I don't need to use the infotainment anymore. The only thing I need to do actually on the screen is maybe go to my climate settings every now and then, but all your driver system settings, all your other app settings and all that, you never need to use it again, because you can just basically use Apple CarPlay, and this is this is what completely makes up for some of the deficiencies in the infotainment system and in the instrument cluster as well. Right, now with that, let's go for a drive. Now there is no start button or anything, you just simply go to the gear shift lever and move it into drive, and everything comes to life, and off you go. One of the most surprising things about the Polestar 2 is that it does not have driving modes. Every car these days has driving modes, but not the Polestar 2. Instead, you can change the steering feel between light, standard and firm. And personally, I have found that firm I quite like firm. You can notice a difference between light and standard. It's not a huge difference, but you can notice it. But more importantly, if you want to drive this car like a traditional EV, you can. You've got the option here to use your one pedal drive, and you can turn the creep mode on and off. Or if you want to drive this car like a more traditional car, then you can turn all that off. And me personally, I prefer driving it like a more normal car, and that is to me one of the most important things, is that you've got that option. There is a stability control mode that you can turn off, and to turn it off, it calls it sport mode. But other than that, there is no difference in driving mode in this car. But that's not really a major issue, in my opinion, because the driving, the acceleration in this, I would say, is very well balanced. It's very easy to drive it fast if you want to punch it, but equally, it's very soft and smooth if you want to drive it slowly. So you don't really need the sport and eco mode, I think, in this car. So this model here does 0 to 100 in 7.4 seconds. Again, this is the standard range single motor. If you go for the long range dual motor with the performance pack, you can do 0 to 100 in 4.4 seconds, which is crazy fast. But in the world of EVs, of course, that's no longer really that special. Many cars can do that. But I think for most people, the torquiness of an electric motor is going to be totally fine for most of your everyday driving. This car does have a brake hold mode. If you push a bit harder on the steering wheel, you'll see the H on your screen, and you don't have to hold the brakes, which is nice. The visibility is good overall. However, the rear window is pretty small, and you wouldn't think so when you look at the car from the outside, but inside, it's just a very, very thin strip that you can see at the back. You do get a reversing camera. Unfortunately, the 360-degree camera is only an option on the higher trim levels, which I think is a bit disappointing. I think that should be standard, to be honest, for this kind of car. But the parking sensors and the reverse camera, the trajectory lines are very, very clear. And I also like how this car does have the option to tilt down the mirrors, the side mirrors in reverse. This car does come with all of your normal driving assist stuff, your lane keeping assist, your road sign recognition, you've got your radar cruise control, collision avoidance. But one thing it does not have that also surprised me is that it does not have a blind spot monitoring system as standard. You can get it in the higher trim models, but not in this. And most cars like these days, so many cars, that's a standard feature. Now, being an EV is generally very quiet to drive, and you can't actually hear too much of the tyre noise and the wind noise, particularly in this. And I think the cheaper EVs you'll find, even though they might be smooth and you can't hear any engine noise, you will hear a lot more tyre noise, and you'll hear a lot more wind noise. So getting a car like this, you will enjoy a bit more quietness in the cabin. And overall driving this, you know, I've found over the last few days of driving it, it is very comfortable, and is, you know, like most EVs, it's very smooth to drive. But I would say it doesn't feel totally disconnected. I think this feels a bit more engaging than, say, your Tesla or many of the other Chinese EVs that are out there. This car, even though the steering is artificially heavier, it actually is quite a fun car to drive. It's very responsive. The seating position is great. And yeah, overall, I've actually quite enjoyed driving this. Alright guys, well that's the review. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you have any comments, don't forget to drop them down in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video, and again, thank you for watching.